Hey, how are you? SliceofOtaku, and we are back yet again to discuss the various former queens of Muni we now know more about thanks to the magic book of spells that is now available for purchase. And I have to say, I was blown away by the enthusiasm you all showed for the very first video of this series focused on Skywynne Butterfly, so hopefully you enjoy this one on her son, Jushtin The Uncalculated. Now, Jushtin was born to Sir Gem Robin and Skywynne Butterfly during year 11 of Skywynne's rule as queen, which is just a year after the greatest period of human joy and prosperity in over a century had began. The birth rate was up, human territory was expanded, food was in surplus, peasants were being educated, music and the arts flourished, and the humans were now capable of defending themselves, so yes, Skywynne really set the stage for a prosperous future. Oh, and Jushtin was also born the same year his parents got married. And it would be 2 years later that Skywynne would denote her belief in Jushtin's magical potential, claiming that she could see it in his eyes, which in any other case I'd just consider maternal bias, but it's Skywynne. If anyone knows what they're talking about when it comes to magic, it's her. And I mean, she would even go as far as to place her wand in Jushtin's hands when he was just a toddler, because she was seriously looking forward to a future where Jushtin would rule Muni and do great things for the kingdom as she had done during her reign. But let's talk a bit more about this wand. Now, not only does Jushtin have the shortest chapter in the magic book of spells, but he also has the least amount of information on his respective wand in the book. Whereas others provide us with the intricate details of their wands, Jushtin just doesn't. He doesn't tell us of his mill horse, but thanks to the subsequent information from a later chapter, we learn that Bartholomew the Brave, who formerly served his mother and her mother before her, also served as his mill horse. Jushtin's wand apparently took the form of a striped cane with a gator agate on top. And I really wish we could have gotten more information on this wand simply because it is the only one we've seen with sentient intelligence. The gator head was alive and apparently was prone to biting, but wouldn't do so to Jushtin as it felt a parental bond between them. Moving forward, of all the secondary titles tied to the various human royalty in the book, I find Jushtin's to be the most perplexing. Back when the Queens of Muni tarot cards were physically distributed, Jushtin's read as Jushtin the Boy Queen, which may have changed along with the timeline a bit as Jushtin never completely ascended to the throne. Now, these cards released all the way back in April of 2018, as the book was initially intended to release 2 months later in June, but evidently was set back even further to its official release date of September 11, 2018. Which isn't exactly a day I'd want to celebrate a book, but hey. When the book was first advertised and available for pre-order, it was said to include the various tarot cards that had been seen before, but instead, they're kinda just printed on the book itself, which was a bit disappointing, but it is what it is. Jushtin is referred to as Jushtin the Uncalculated as to juxtapose his innate mathematical inclination. I mean, this guy is so obsessed with math to the point where he considers equations associated with the Doppler effect when talking about how lit Muni is going to be with him in charge. The Doppler effect being the apparent change in the frequency of a wave caused by relative motion between the source of the wave and the observer. Essentially how the brightness of Muni fluctuates depending on how far or close you are to it. And in this context, I don't expect anyone to really care about that. It's mostly just there to illustrate how mathematically wired this dude's thoughts are. It also seems like he at one point had a crush on his math tutor, and so I'm curious if she was the root cause of his fascination with math, or did she simply amplify a pre-existing interest? And considering the level of math Jushtin displays, this tutor must have been insanely good. And despite how incredible his math skills are, his grammar was somewhat horrendous. But yeah, to consider something or someone to be uncalculated is to consider it to be unplanned or not properly thought out, which I feel just refers to his gender, as the highest position in the monarchy belongs to the seat of the queen, and Jushtin was only considered the heir to the throne because he was Skywynne's only child. Jushtin's greatest ambition for his rule was to make Muni as appealing as possible with the help of his boy prince crew. The exuberant and flashy nature of their style was pretty easy to see. First, we have Jushtin's best friend, Sasmo, Prince of the Dock of Unending Torment. Next, there's PP, Prince of the Musty Mountain Caves. Then we have Viscount Tinbez of the Spider Bites, and finally, Old Whizbag of Garbage Beach. A visually odd band of characters, but the bond between them seems to have been very strong, and if anything, there's something to be admired here. Jushtin's close relations to the nobility and, I suppose, elderly of various minor kingdoms could prove to be very valuable to his own kingdom. Now, moving on to his magic, we don't really get all that much from him, which is a shame considering the high hopes his mother had for him in that regard. Although, with the brevity of his chapter and short time he had with the wand, you can't entirely fault him. The first spell he provides us with allows a user to bestow wings onto any horse of their choice. The second spell, known as Creaky Knees, creates an incredibly comfortable seat, and you know, despite how calculated and intricate his thought process may be, Jushtin seems to also have a knack for simplicity. His magical incantations and associated movements are of the simplest the Book of Spells has to offer. He pretty much just lifts his hand, followed by a turn in another direction, says the word wings, and boom, you have your very own Pegasus. And so I really can't help but feel like Skywynne once did, and wonder what else Jushtin could have accomplished had he more time with the magic book and wand. And speaking of Skywynne, as opposed to the relationship she once had with her own mother, being annoyed or bothered whenever they interacted, Jushtin seems to have a great relationship with his mother, as at multiple points in his short chapter, he can't help but say how much he loves her. Which I suppose leads us to the end of Jushtin's time with the book and wand. One night, Skywynne entered Jushtin's chambers, waking him from his deep sleep to woefully inform him that she was with child. And apparently on Muni, nursemaids use something called a moon pod to ascertain the gender of a child prior to birth, and this child was to be a girl. Now, as we said before, when it comes to the Mumin throne, females take priority, so this child would take Jushtin's place as rightful heir. And you know, with my previous video on Skywynne, a ton of you said how you would love to see some of this queen stuff animated, and I couldn't agree more. This instance right here has a level of emotional depth and confliction that I think would truly be a sight worth seeing. Skywynne reluctantly takes the magic book of spell and wand from Jushtin as she gets choked up holding back her own tears. She expected nothing but great things from her son, and as such, projected these feelings towards him the entirety of his life. But here, by having another child, which would generally be cause for celebration, is in a sense her taking Jushtin's future and to agree, his identity. It's such a complicated, conflicting position to be in on both sides, and rather than agonizing with Jushtin, instead of consoling him as they cry together, she leaves the room seeming to be overjoyed now that she has the wand and book back. And you know, Jushtin, having this deep connection with his mother, having this great relationship, is able to ascertain that she is pretending to not be in pain. She's putting up a mask, a wall, so that he doesn't see how sad she actually is over this. And so yeah, I don't know about you guys, but this part just made me crave for more from Jushtin, because we really just are left hanging here. This part just makes me so much more interested in how he develops as a person from here on out, and considering how drastically different his vision for Muni's future would be from his sister, how does he go about processing that? The only bit of subsequent information we have on him is that he volunteers as a royal envoy when an alliance is needed from the Ponyheads and Lucitors, which to me sounds like a great role for him to fulfill, as he had a natural talent for befriending important figures from other kingdoms. And something else I figured I'd just mention would be the suspected canonical appearance of Jushtin in the Season 3 episode Return to Muni. In this episode, Star places a bit of focus on this particular skeleton with a funny hat, and although they are in a sense similar, the hat this skeleton bears is a far cry from the level of extravagance present within Jushtin's. Not only that, but unless Toffee drew cheek marks onto the skulls he once had as shoulder pads, then this skeleton would need cheek marks identical to Jushtin's, and they have no such thing. And I suppose another simple rebuttal would be that he's royalty spanning like 8 generations back, so that would be a little weird. But yeah, that about does it for Jushtin the Uncalculated. Let me know what you guys think about him in the comments, because for me, when I think about some of the book's later entries, I can't help but feel like Muni really missed out on a great leader here. But with the next video in this series, we will be focusing on the person responsible for Jushtin losing his claim to the throne, his very own baby sister, Solaria the Monster Carver. And let me tell you, that is about to be a very intense video, so I hope you look forward to it. Thank you all so much for watching, and have an awesome day. I love you.